All right. And for the first guest in the Autumn Windbags history, there was one guy and one guy only. We wanted someone who knew really good defense, someone who knew the Raiders organization, a guy that was charming, fun, some guy I idolized. Bill Romanowski was busy, so I got AJ Hawk instead. How you doing, AJ?
Hey,
Doing well. Hey, I'm a huge Romo fan. So yeah, believe me, I would have loved to. I wish you would. I hope you do get Romo on here eventually.
Have you ever talked to him? Is he as crazy in person as I envision him to be?
I've never gotten the chance to talk to him. I read his book back in the day that he wrote. I always followed everything that he did. I used to know one of the Fred Puggich was a coach for the Raiders when we went to the Super Bowl. Romo was on the staff, and I got to know him and his son. And I would just badger him with questions about Romo.
Yeah, the stories I'm sure are nuts. I actually went to high school with his niece. Her name was Cindy. And I tried everything I could to get into that family, but she had no interest in me. None at all. Swinging and miss. Yeah, exactly. So good for her. I would have had Uncle Romanowski, Uncle Bill. That would have been great. I got a serious question, AJ. Are any of those books in your library real books? Because I don't see any titles. I just see blanks. Like, did you buy a bunch of fake books to look like you had to study?
Well, I have to let you in on the secret. This is actually a background I bought on Amazon, taped to the wall.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks real. Looks very real. I'm impressed.
Most people think it's a green screen, but I'm like, no, just some gaffer's tape I got taped to the ceiling, and it's held up so far.
I got to do that. I got to do that. So let's talk about the Raiders defense. Like, not just bad, but like historically bad. They fired Paul Guenther obviously last week. We brought up, like, our defense is full of like first round draft picks, expensive free agents, and they all just play terrible. Like, Corey Littleton was amazing in the Rams. He comes to the Raiders, not one sack, not one fumble. Like, what did you make of Paul Guenther and what he did with the Raiders?
Man, I don't like. They always, obviously, if your defense isn't playing well, they're going to look at the coordinator. I mean, they evaluate players and everything, but coaches usually seem to be the first one to go when you're trying to fix things like that. You can't just overhaul and get rid of everybody in the defense. They have talented guys. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what happened out there with Guenther, because he ran, he learned under Mike Zimmer, who's in Minnesota and had a great defense during his time in Cincinnati, and Minnesota's had really good defenses over the years. So he runs that kind of system. But I don't know. Like, I wish I would have watched more and studied more of what the Raiders were like. Where were they getting beat the most defensively?
Well, no pass rush, terrible pass rush, tight ends and running backs killing us out of the backfield. Towards the end, like the last 4 or 5 games, the run defense has completely disappeared. Like, the Jets put up like 200 rushing yards. Like, everyone's running literally everywhere, right? Like, literally everywhere, the defense has completely fallen apart.
Yeah, it's tough. Once it starts going that way, it's tough to get back on track, I think. And so that, I mean, the Jets game, that was the one where they should have lost, obviously, right?
Yeah, that was the one where the Greg Williams went like a zero blitz on the very last play. And so you had Henry Ruggs, the fastest player on the field, going against an undrafted rookie free agent, single coverage. That worked out well. Otherwise, it'd be a 5-game losing streak. That's how bad the defense has been playing.
Yeah, you're right.
It should be a 5-game losing streak.
I don't know.
Are you yeah, go ahead, Juan.
Well, Will Compton wrote that some of the issues that the team had with Guenther was he wasn't a great teacher, not the best game planner, and he played the blame game too much. Now, not having played professional football, that seems like it's a trifecta of leading to failure for me. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for a player to say that too, it's a little bit surprising maybe, but yeah, if you don't do those 3 things, how do you expect to win? Luckily, so I was with Guenther for 1 year in Cincinnati. He was a defensive coordinator during my 1 year there. And I always say, like, winning covers up a lot of things. And luckily we were winning. Like, that was the year, if you remember, the Bengals went to the playoffs. We got beat by the Steelers, where we had like 75 yards in penalties in one play, ended up getting beat, knocked out of the playoffs. It was a brutal ending. Yeah. Our defense played pretty well throughout that year. Our offense was playing great, and that helped us a bunch. But yeah, if you're saying he's not a good teacher, he doesn't game plan well, and the blame game, of those 3 things, that the one that would annoy me the most would be the blame game. Like, if a coach is trying to blame other coaches or blame whatever is going on and not taking responsibility for whatever's happening. I mean, that's the thing. If you're the coach, if you're the leader, and whatever product is out there, if it's not doing well, yeah, coaches can only do so much. They can put you in position to make plays, but the players have to make the plays. Now, it seems like it may be a little bit of a combination of both. They weren't put in position to make great plays, and when they weren't executing. That's what it seems like. That's usually what happens when a coordinator ends up getting fired.
What are the locker room rules when it comes to like speaking out against your coaches? Because we heard like Corey Littleton kind of mentioned something earlier in the season, like, oh, I can only be as good as the scheme. Like when I see that, I'm thinking, all right, is there like a defensive leader that needs to shut these guys up, or are things so bad that they're just kind of like, I'm glad someone's talking?
I mean, usually when guys are saying, and especially if it's name guys that like guys that have made plays in the league, and they're making comments like that during the season, usually the majority of the people in the locker room probably feel the same way for that stuff to happen. I haven't really been on a team, I think, where guys have like publicly criticized coaches or schemes like to the media. That's something that doesn't, once that starts happening, man, like good luck getting that back. Like if you're Guenther, good luck getting that defensive room back. If guys are already kind of making those backhanded, or I guess kind of like passive aggressive jabs at the scheme and at what you're doing, like then if you're the owner, you're the head coach, like, man, I better figure something out, because this is something that if you don't stop it right here, it's going to get really bad.
Yeah, we can agree that the defense has been letting the Raiders down the last few weeks. How does that play out in the locker room? Like one side versus the other. You can definitely see that the defense is not doing what they need to do. How does that play out in the locker room?
Oh, it's tough. And you're really split up, like starting from a young age, offense and defense. Like you're all on the same team. You're all working together for the same goal, but you're two separate entities almost. Like the defense does their thing, the offense does their thing. And usually the case is I've been on the defensive side of it. So usually the defense is always saying, like, oh, offensive guys are soft. They don't even hit in practice. They're just running plays. They're not doing anything. So when that starts happening though, and say like one side's not holding up their end of the bargain, yeah, you can get frustrated. And if it happens like over and over again, yeah, there's definitely, it'll come to a head. Like it'll boil over eventually, and there'll be fights in practice. There'll be arguments. I don't know what has happened behind the scenes there, but I'm guessing it's not great, especially when Raiders were showing a lot of hope, man. A lot of people had a lot of hope for this team. And now it's like, oh man, here we are again. Like, what are we going to do if you're a Raiders fan and you're on the team? So there definitely can be some push back and forth. You got to have some good veteran leadership though, to hopefully shut it down, because it's not going to help you. Like if your offense is fighting with your defense or the other way around, it doesn't matter. Like it's not going to end well.
Have you ever had to lay down the law on a teammate?
For something like that? That's someone like complaining about offense or something?
Well, like anything, any reason at all. They're being poisonous in the locker room. They didn't pay their bar tab and left you there. Like any reason at all? Have you had to lay down the law?
Not like in a crazy public way in front of everybody. Like that wasn't really my style. And I was also lucky. I played at Ohio State, so I had a lot of really good guys around me. I had a lot of good like veteran leaders when I came in. And then in Green Bay, they don't really put up with anything in Green Bay. Like that's the thing. If you're a problem, if you're a guy that wants to create issues and say things that your teammates are going to have to answer for to the media, like you're usually not going to be around very long. So there wasn't a whole lot of that. But yeah, little things here and there. If guys, it's usually young guys that it's almost not their fault. Like they've come in, they've been in a whirlwind, they're in their first or second year, they're trying to get their first time, they're getting some notoriety or whatever. They may want to rest and think that they've arrived. They think they've arrived. That was an annoying thing with me sometimes. Like when somebody or groups of people think that they have arrived and that they got it all figured out and they don't need to listen to anybody. Like that's something that would bug me sometimes if I ever saw it.
So I bumped into TJ Husmanzada at Fox Sports when I was working there, exchanging stories. He played very briefly with the Raiders, and he was talking about when he was on the Bengals that Chad Ochocinco would literally just like leave practice when he just felt like he wasn't getting like balls thrown his way in practice. We're in practice. Talk about practice, AJ. When practice wouldn't go his way, he would just leave. And Husmanzada is like, oh, I guess this is how it works in the NFL. The stars can just like bounce and stuff like that. Like, it's crazy how you think like, yeah, Green Bay, nothing like that happens. But in Cincinnati, it's just like, oh yeah, star receivers can just hop in their car and go to the bar if they want to.
I mean, it is amazing when I talk to my buddies that play on different teams, the things that happen or the things that I guess people are allowed to get away with. And when you're as good as Chad Johnson, though, like when you're making plays like that, yeah, I'm sure you guys have probably heard, be who you can afford to be. So if you're making plays, you got a big contract, you look like you're pretty stable there, you can get away with a lot. And it just depends on who. Some guys like to push that and some guys don't. But if you're a coach or you're running that team and you don't shut it down right away, then it has a trickle down effect to the rest of the team. And they see like, oh, okay, we can get away with a lot more than I thought. And that didn't happen much in Green Bay. And now the more I look back on it, like I'm very glad that Mike McCarthy, he was the head coach at the time. He never really let anything like that slide. And I don't think us players would have let it slide either.
That's why I'm a model employee, because I'm not a star at all. And I have to just be as good as possible because I can't afford to be anything more.
That was me. I never miss a practice, never miss anything. Because I'm like, I don't want these guys to get a look at what it looks like with me not on the field, because then I might be out of here.
That's me here, AJ. I'm always early. I do what I'm told. I mic check, everything. So I don't want to get replaced.
Yeah, we'll cut you real quick, Soto. Don't you worry about that.
I'm easily expendable.
Who would you rather have as your quarterback? Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers?
Oh man, what a question, huh?
Yeah, right. Trying to get you in trouble.
Right now, today, I'm taking Aaron, and I'm super biased because I play with him. I still talk to him, a decent amount, and I've seen what he can do this year. Pat Mahomes now, obviously, there'd be 1A, 1B, but yeah, I'm taking Aaron all day long just because what he can do physically. There's not a whole lot of guys that can do it. You see how he throws the ball, like just little sidearm zip, 50 yards on a string to in between three defenders.
Left-handed, eyes closed.
Yeah. And Mahomes does the same kind of stuff. Like the backpedaling he can do to create a little bit of extra cushion to get like Tyreek Hill get down the field or whatever, and then just fling that thing 60 in the air or something off his back foot. It's pretty amazing. So you can't go wrong with either of those guys. But yes, I'm heavily biased. I'm taking Aaron.
Now we got a defensive coordinator position open with the Raiders. Rod Marinelli's kind of just being the interim right now. Wade Phillips has talked about it. Raheem Morris is a possibility as well. Is there a guy? Before I ask you who, is that a job that defensive coordinators would covet? Defensive coordinator for the Raiders, because there's a lot of talent on that team. The offense is great, and like you can't whatever improvement that the Raiders make, it's going to be all credited to you. Like they can't possibly get worse. Like they're 32nd in like every ranking. They can't possibly get worse. They're going to get better. You'll get all credit for it. It seems like a dream situation for defensive coordinator.
It kind of is. Yeah. I mean, you can name a lot worse defensive coordinator jobs in the NFL, I think, with a lot less talent and a lot less chance to win. Like you have a chance to win if you're in a Las Vegas Raider now. And Gruden, I know, he's the guy driving the ship there. I know Mayock is the GM, but what's weird is I've been reading, especially lately, how Mayock, he's the GM, but Gruden has all the final say, right? So if we're talking about personnel, that's on Gruden, right? It's not on Mayock.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. I mean, Gruden's a guy that I'm sure he can do it, and they do have talented players, but I don't know what they're going to need to do to kind of get over that hump. I tried to figure it out to where they finally break through and they figured things out. They showed signs of it, but I think their defense obviously has let them down. And now, so Derek Carr's, I don't know when this is coming out. He's possibly going to be able to play now.
Yeah, everything. This is going to be. We're filming this on Wednesday, and it'll come out on Thursday. But it's been 50-50 is kind of what everyone said. So he's played with busted up vertebrae. He's played with broken digits.
High ankle sprains.
He's only missed. I kept thinking, because I'll never forget the nightmare when he broke his leg on Christmas against the Colts and ruined his potential MVP year. I'm like, oh man, he's injury prone. He's really not. He gets hurt, but he still plays.
No, he's tough, man. And that's when I hear people, they like to talk about, Derek Carr's not a Gruden guy. Is he not like him and Gruden don't get along? I'm like, it seems like they would to me. I mean, Derek Carr seems like an awesome dude, an awesome human. Yeah. And he seems to be super tough. So I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, or what kind of guy, who is a Gruden guy? What would a Gruden guy be? Who?
So I had this discussion with a guy that we've worked with at SiriusXM, Ryan McKinnell. And he's like, well, the personalities clash. Jon Gruden's crazy. He's like a cartoon character. And Derek Carr's serious, Christian, family guy. I'm like, dude, Rich Gannon is the biggest stick in the mud on planet Earth. And he became an MVP working with Gruden. So this whole their personalities clash. So what? If you could throw the football, win games, that's all Gruden wants out of you.
And nobody cares. In any professional sport, the ultimate, people will give you respect if you can make plays. If you're a good player and you can go out there and you can be accountable to your teammates and your coaches, like then yeah, people will absolutely love you and you'll get along with the majority of the coaching staff and the team. I think Derek Carr has shown that. So I don't know. I bet Gruden is higher on Derek Carr than people think.
All right, I want to ask about a player that played for both the Raiders and the Packers, Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
What kind of leader was he in the locker room?
Charles is the man. He is such a unique guy. He's definitely not like a rah-rah guy, not out there speaking and breaking the team down every single day, but he would do it at times and people would listen. But Charles is like one of those super kind of probably like he's obviously like one of the coolest dudes at all times on the field, off the field, studied at all. Like there was one year, I think it might have been the year he won Defensive Player of the Year, where he had like a nasty turf toe the whole season. He barely was able to practice. He would sit there and get like ultrasound on his toe and watch his iPad and just watch film all day long. And he then find a way to play on game day. But he honestly is a really good leader because other than that one year when he was fighting through that turf toe, he was always at practice. He was always making plays at practice too. Charles loved getting picks in practice, taking them to the house. Like it would bring a lot of energy. And when when you're young and you're sitting there looking, I'm like, man, this is Charles Woodson. I grew up watching this guy do this, and I'm watching how hard he's practicing. And I can see how much he cares. I think it has a huge effect on the rest of the team. It definitely had an effect on me. Charles came to Green Bay as a free agent the year I got drafted, so we came in together when he came from the Raiders. And man, getting to play with him, he has by far some of the best ball skills ever for a DB. We always can find a way to locate the ball and he's also really good at causing fumbles, like everything. He can do it all. And he's calling out route combinations pre-snap every single game.
He's also the only guy that can pull off like the tuxedo jacket with the neckerchief instead of the tie.
Ascot.
The ascot. Yeah. He dresses like he's Will Smith's butler, but he pulls it off. You know what I mean? He looks great.
It became like his thing on TV, the ascot that he's wearing. He wore those in Green Bay on road trips, and we didn't even have to wear suits. We just had, like, McCarthy basically said, if you're wearing jeans, don't have holes in them, like wear decent pants and a decent shirt. Like you don't have to wear a suit. Charles would wear a suit with an ascot and a big overcoat. Like I think he liked when it got cold because his wardrobe really opened up. He could pull out these different coats, a mink maybe. He's just Charles like a super classy individual. He's got his own wine. Like he's really into wine. A lot of DBs love wine. I know it's big now, like LeBron and basketball players, but that was a big thing that I saw. And Charles was like spearheading that in our whole DB room. Everyone, they all were like sommeliers by the time they were done there, it seems like.
Yeah, I feel like moving to a cold weather city allowed him to open up. Like that was the best thing that ever happened to him. Moving to playing for Green Bay.
To his wardrobe, at least.
Yeah, I got those coats make sense. Have you tried his bourbon? He just had a bourbon come out.
I saw that. I have not tried it yet. Have you?
I haven't. I went to order it and it was like, oh, $30, no big deal. And it was like $25 in shipping. So it's not like, the money I've spent on Charles Woodson like gear and stuff that doesn't like even like to scratch the surface, but just the principle of it, AJ. It's the principle. I'm paying as much in shipping for the actual item. I was like, I'm gonna break down and get it, but I'll do like a live taste test on air one time, one of these days. But it's just, how cheap I am. I just couldn't do it.
You could get in the car. You need to drive wherever they're selling it. Drive down there, however far it may be, and pick up one bottle.
It'd be cheaper. Home. It would be cheaper for me just to drive there and get it myself. No question about it. Again, on the Raiders defense, I'm a big believer that players don't just change venue and get terrible. Like Corey Littleton playing terrible, Carl Nassib playing terrible, Nick Witkowski playing decent, playing pretty good, but not as well as he did in Chicago. Like, I feel like this podcast has become just a crap on Paul Guenther show. I don't mean it to be, but like that there's one consistency in all this, AJ, and that's been Guenther. Like, do players just like fall off like that?
Not really. Like we always hear like, oh, a change of scenery is good for guys at times. And when I see that's a guy going from a scheme that may not fit him well to a scheme that does fit him well.
Yeah.
Now for Littleton, I'm not sure exactly the situation, but yeah, it can definitely happen where there's some schemes that are much better for certain players than others. Like if you're like going from a 3-4 to a 4-3. I know when I was in Green Bay, we were in a 4-3 my first 3 years. We switched to a 3-4. There's a couple guys, older guys that were there that had their hand in the ground playing D end in a 4-3, and now they're asked to play outside backer. And a lot of times those guys, sometimes they're not too keen on doing that. Like, man, I've had my hand in the ground for 10 years. I got 100 sacks in my career. Like, and now I got to stand up and try to drop to the curl flat zone every once in a while. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this. So that stuff like that definitely can happen. That's the number one thing about being a good coach, I think, is not just jamming whatever your scheme is, whatever your plan is. Like, oh, this is what I do, and just jamming it to your team. Like, you have to look at your roster, look who you have, and especially now with COVID, that changes week to week and day to day, how many players you're going to have available, who they are, and you got to like somehow, yeah, you're going to have like your fundamental staples of your defense, but you have to kind of work it to what kind of talent you have. That's why Belichick and the Patriots have been so good for so long, and that seems like it's come to an end right now, at least for they may have a brief sabbatical and see if Bill can rebuild it, but they find who their guys are and they say it. They're like, we're never going to ask you to do something you can't do. Mm-hmm. And so then they kind of craft and they find roles for guys and they plug and play and they figure it out. And I think it's really hard to do, though. It's easy to say. It's just really tough to actually execute.
So who do you think should be the defensive coordinator for the Raiders? You know, Raheem Morris has got history. Wade Phillips wants it. Rod Marinelli currently has it. Is there someone else you think that's either like due for a big upgrade or a promotion, or someone you think that fits well with that with Raider Nation?
I mean, I think Wade Phillips would be an interesting personality choice with Jon Gruden. Like those two guys paired. Wade is so laid back and wants to take care of his guys and has had some great defenses. You can't go wrong with Wade, I don't think. And just selfishly as a player, I know anyone that's played for Wade Phillips loves him. And so this guy's like, we want to win for him. We want him to be around. So let's go out there and win because we don't want him to go anywhere. I think Raheem Morris as well, though. I know he's kind of, as he took over the interim tag for Atlanta, he's had their defense playing better and the team has some energy. And I've been around Raheem a little bit, and I think he's one of those super high energy, really, really smart guys. He's coached like every position that you can coach in the NFL. So I think he could definitely be a guy that they would look at.
So you're doing shows with Pat McAfee now. I've been tuning in. Did hosting a radio show with me prepare you for doing a show with Pat McAfee? Because neither one of us know how to shut the hell up.
You know what? It honestly did. And I thought about that at times. And not that you don't shut up, but which is perfect for me because I don't. Sometimes there's definitely days when I'm not very talkative and I have to be on the air or whatever. But you know what, like how quick Pat is and how off the wall and just how unique his brain is. Like working with you absolutely prepared me for that because that's you, RJ. That's you, like this unique, weird brain that who knows what's going through there, who knows what's happening during the show. You always would talk about how you couldn't have your blinds open because a squirrel would distract you and you forget you're doing a national radio show. So yeah, I think it definitely helped.
Yeah, I missed. I don't know who makes the decisions over there at Fox, but they really shit the bed not putting you and Pat in the booth calling games. When it was you, Pat, and I forgot who the play-by-play guy was, but like I watched like a random there was an awesome 2 versus 5 game on, but I watched your game because you and Pat were just so good in that booth together.
It was fun, man. We talk about it all the time. Like, man, we thought for sure, maybe someone's going to call him, but let's do another game. And Pat's like, you hear anything? Like, nope, silence. Since we did that game, like, yep, me either. So I don't know. We had fun though.
All right. One thing that I've always wanted to ask a professional athlete. You went to college in Ohio. You played the majority of your career in Wisconsin. Give me the rundown. Ohio chicks versus Wisconsin chicks.
It's a great question. Probably similar values, similar lifestyle. One thing that happened in Wisconsin, and I was married right before my first training camp, actually, but I would get to hear my buddies talk about if they would try to find a long-term girlfriend or eventually a wife in Green Bay, sometimes it would be difficult at times for some of them. But it wasn't due to a lack of trying. Guys were out there. They were hitting the streets trying to figure it out, bringing people in. They would drive to Milwaukee a decent amount. It's like an hour and a half, hour and 45. That was always a good change up. I'd like to hear their stories when they would come in about what happened in Milwaukee. But yeah, it's honestly, people in Wisconsin, I don't know if you've been there, if you've been to Green Bay at all, probably the nicest people on the planet. And especially if you guys come from California, you probably wouldn't believe them, how nice they are. I know I didn't when I got there. I'm like, are they trolling us or whatever? Because they were asking to carry our groceries out. They're always just and they care so much about the Packers, and like they care about the players too, like as players, not just like a number. Like they truly would know things about your family, and not in like a creepy way, and they just want to help and be nice. And every
There's
time
some
I've been
pictures I
back,
took of your kid on the playground. Doesn't he look great? Yeah.
that would be weird. Luckily, I never saw that. If they did that, they never presented those to me.
What? Because like obviously you were married, you know, your entire professional career. But what is it like for your teammates that were single? Is it all the chicks just like money grubbing whores trying to bag some cleats, or are these guys could like find some decent women being a professional football player?
If you could find like Wisconsin would be a good state to actually find a good woman. I think that isn't just out there, you know, jersey chasing, trying to find the first professional athlete to marry him or getting knocked up or whatever it may be. I think Wisconsin's a good spot for that. But yeah, I've seen some different situations. Like who was I talking to? Somebody who went to Miami, like did a workout there, or maybe they're on the team for a couple weeks, and they'd never played anywhere that it was like warm weather year round, anything. And they're like, man, this would be a different world. This is a different NFL than I am used to. And it's true. Like if you have all of these options, all of these things, I know when I went to Cincinnati, I went and visited shortly after I left Green Bay, and I went through and did physical and all this stuff. I hadn't signed there yet. And I grew up 40 minutes from Cincinnati, but I just being there and thinking of being on the Bengals, like, oh, this is where I'm going to play. Having like, you know, downtown Cincinnati, there's the Red Stadium right here. There's so much going on around just the football team. There's a lot of people that don't, like, not by any fault of theirs, they just don't really even care about the team. Like in Wisconsin, I never had that. It was like everybody there, it seems like, is there to support the Packers, and there's not a ton of other things happening. So for me, it was kind of a cool change up, something that I never really thought about during my 9 years in Green Bay.
Yeah, when the Raiders moved to Vegas, like everyone's talking about, oh, the players are going to go nuts. They're just going to be in casinos. Everyone's going to be in jail. I thought, well, for a guy who's in Vegas like 25 weekends a year, let me tell you, it gets old quick. So that's why I thought that like it's a trap game. The players coming in were the ones that are going to get roasted, because the local players, like, they'll get over the scene at any, they'll either like get a coke habit and die, or they'll get over it quick. But the players coming in, you know, a 23-year-old from, you know, Michigan is going to be like, holy shit, these guys are just passing out cue cards with hookers on them. Like, how can I leave?
I thought that the same. That happens in basketball more than football, because football, they have you on lockdown. You show up usually the day before the game, like at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. You may have like 2 or 3 hours. You could go try to have dinner with your family. This is pre-COVID or whatever. And then you have team meeting at 8:00, and then you meet for a couple hours. Then they legit have bed check where they go around, knock on your door, and make sure you're there. So you can't really get into a whole lot of trouble. But I've definitely heard that for basketball players in Miami. I mean, if you're in Vegas, Toronto, and there are a bunch of strip clubs in Toronto. I hear NBA teams struggle because there's a lot of good strip clubs there, and a lot of the guys are pretty worn out by the time the game comes around.
I read an article, I don't know, a couple years ago, and it was talking about the death of the trap game because of Tinder. So when these players go to these new cities, instead of going to the club till like 3 a.m., chasing tail, getting drunk, causing a ruckus, they just start swiping right, and they come to the hotel room.
It's too easy for them, huh?
It's too easy.
It's too easy. You can't even get the guys worn out.
There's no hunt anymore. What's the fun? It's a shame.
Man, the hunt, I guess, for that, the hunt is it's a digital hunt. It's not nearly as fun, is it?
Yeah. You don't have to actually get your claws out. You just set a trap. Bam, gotcha, bitch. All right. So you got what else are you working on? You got your show with Pat McAfee. That's every day, right?
Yeah, Monday through Friday. He's on Mad Dog Radio from 12 to 3. I come on usually at 2, sometimes 1:30, just depending. And we go till 3, and then we stay after on his YouTube channel. That's the main thing he cares about, is this YouTube channel and driving everything to that. So yeah, we started that right once COVID hit, and now it's a legit full go thing for me. And then I worked as a color analyst for college games this year. I think I did about 8 games. My last couple were canceled due to COVID running rampant through a couple of teams.
Sure.
But yeah, I always want to do games. I like being there in person and getting to try to figure out what's happening on the field. And I like the whole week leading up to it. I basically study like I did when I played. When I watched the 2 teams I'll be talking about, it's fun to me. I still like getting into like the super deep, like X's and O's, and just trying to figure out what the coaches are thinking.
Any questions you have for us, AJ? Since we asked you all these questions, this is a
I
rare
do.
opportunity for you to ask us questions.
Do you guys have hope for the future of the Raiders?
No. Yeah, it's not. I'm lying. I do. And this is why. There's just the defense, right? The offense is great. We just need the defense to be mediocrely shitty, just not like historically terrible, just mediocrely shitty. And I think and we should be a playoff team. And that's what I'm saying is like our DBs, safety, first round draft pick, corner, first round draft pick, other corner, like second year, first round draft pick, linebackers, Littleton, $33 million player, Witowski, like Max Crosby's coming around, Clelin Ferrell, fourth overall, like the personnel is there, like that. The personnel of a good defense is there. They just can't put it all together. So again, I think like the greatest coaching gig in all of sports right now is the defensive coordinator for the Raiders next season, because you got a ton of talent, good cap space. The other side of the ball is playing great. Offense and special teams play fantastic. You get to take all the credit for a defense that's just not like the bottom of the sewer.
Yeah, and think about it. You can come in if you're the D coordinator, take over for a year, maybe just make the defense like a middle of the pack defense overall. You have some success, make a playoff run, bam, you're the next head coach, and all you have to do is be a D coordinator for the Raiders for 1 year.
Take all that credit. Like this should be the biggest go-to for any job. You should apply for it. This is your chance. No?
Yeah, go for it.
How would you just play linebacker for us, AJ? Like seriously, like we need you.
Yes.
I don't think so. I don't know. You know how guys would say, "Oh, I could play, but I tell you what, I can't walk the next day." I don't care about the next day. If I could play and feel awful the next day, cool. That's life. That's every game since you're 3 years old.
It's satisfying.
But I'm not gonna be able to start and stop. I gotta somehow regrow some cartilage in my knees and in my right knee and both my feet and ankles if I want to figure that out.
What hurts the most? Which body part hurts the most after 30 years of playing football?
I'm super lucky where I didn't have I had a lot of surgeries, but I always got them in the off season. My right knee, I tore my PCL my senior year in high school, started getting scoped. I didn't have any cartilage barely when I got to the league. So that's been something I've been dealing with since I was 18 years old. So I've learned, it was good it happened early because I learned how to play through it. I learned how to take care of myself better, but that's the main thing I have. I'm lucky. No documented concussions, not a whole lot of upper body issues, tore a pec. That's it. No
documented concussions.
No, zero.
Not on paper.
RJ. Zero.
Good thick skull. That's
How many
important.
do you have? How many documented do you have?
Zero documented. Same way. You just don't go to the doctor. That's the key.
I have 3.
Ooh.
3 from banging your head against the wall watching the Raiders play.
Yeah. Well, no. One was a car accident. But
Yeah.
other than that,
That'll do it. Is that why you were so intimidated during this interview that you didn't ask AJ any questions because of the concussion?
yeah, I just forgot. I forgot I was part of the interview.
I was just watching TV, listening to RJ and AJ talk. It's been great. AJ, it was awesome catching up with you. Thanks for coming on, bud. Appreciate it. Check you out on Pat McAfee show. Obviously, anytime you're calling any color commentary, we're there, bud.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I love the name of the podcast as well. I think it suits you well.
It does. It's like when Soto actually thought of the name. And at first I was like on the fence of like, do we actually start this podcast? Do I have time? Do we want to do it? And then when he came up with the autumn windbags, I was like, okay, done.
Gotta do it.
Done deal. We got to do it now. You can't let that name go to waste.
I can't wait till it grows bigger and bigger. And then you're going to start hearing like players and coaches on the Raiders, like referencing and like what you go, oh, it's going to be like bulletin board material. Well, I tell you what, I just happened to get a clip sent to me from these autumn windbag douches. And then, you know what? I was thinking about that all day today. And they're going to be like extra physical. And then that's going to be like, hey, and you're going to come out and you're going to be so happy. Like, you guys are welcome that I could motivate you to a victory.
Yeah. And that's
So I need to buy a gun, is what you're saying.
Is what?
I need to buy a gun, is what you're saying.
That's just sound advice anytime.
Yeah.
All right, AJ. Appreciate you coming on, bud.
All right. Thanks, guys.